G'day guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast. Today we have a lot to talk about with the footy season starting in just a few weeks' time. We do have a little bit of pre-season news to take a look at, including a game that has already been played, some injury concerns already, and we also take a look at the so-called drama relating the West Coast Eagles and dressing up for their intra-club game. And in world sport, we do have a lot of news in the soccer, including a massive bombshell with the transfer news. But let's move into the intro and get straight into it. And then Rankin from the pocket, don't tell me, Isaac Rankin!
Yeah.
He's just got the license for a brothel.
Well, I think Gather Round's going to be more than just AFL this next season.
It's at the handle at the back, Nick Dacos to get the pies home! He's done it! So guys, welcome to episode 51 of the Boundary Riders podcast. As always, I've got my brother Jack with me. We're probably at we have our only pre-season game so far, which was Melbourne versus Richmond. Did you see much of that game at all?
Nah, I've only seen the highlights to it.
Yeah, so I watched a bit of the game. We'll get more into that in a minute. But before we get into the whole podcast and everything, as we mentioned last week, BR Designs, our very own football print company, just opened up last week. And for this week, of course, we do have a new promo code for all of you. If you use the code BRPOD, capital letters BRPOD, you will get 10% off your purchase for any AFL print. All the link will be down below as always, and you can see a couple of prints in the background. Sorry, our webcam camera is pretty shitty. Trust me, they are really good designs. We absolutely love them. They've also got an interactive aspect that if you scan the QR code on them, you will get the clip of the certain design that you have, which I think is really exciting, really cool. So click the link below if you want to go check out BR Designs. We do really appreciate it. And let's get into today's episode. So the first thing I wanted to take a look at was a couple of injury concerns. The first one was Jacob Wiedering. Now, I don't know if you knew that he has had an injury concern throughout the pre-season for Carlton.
Yeah. I did, yeah.
So at this stage, it does look like that he has finally returned back to running, but he won't be back until around round 3. So for Carlton fans, that's a little bit disappointing. But that's basically that's probably the biggest injury so far. Haven't had a lot of news on many huge players being injured so far, like any, maybe I guess Cal Mills, but Cal Mills, that's been known since last year really.
Todd Marshall's got injured in their Port Adelaide's intra-club game. Someone still on his foot, so he's not going to be playing the trial match against the Crows on Friday night.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So I'm planning to do at least one stream of these pre-season games before the regular pre-season game, I guess. This pre-season games, this round, week, or whatever, are not somewhat official. They are, but they're not. And then for some reason, next week, they are official, which I don't really get.
Well, they're playing the Melbourne one was 7 periods, and the first 4 were the AFL listed players, and the next 3 were the second tier VFL players, even though Clayton Oliver played in the second tier league. I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't really get it. I get the fact of that it's a little bit different, they're giving players a different chance, they're playing 7 rounds. It's not exactly like AFL rules, so to speak. But to play, is it that big of a difference, really? It's still a pre-season game. It's not for points, so it doesn't really matter.
They might as well just say it's 2 weeks of pre-season games, play like that, and then get into the actual season. Yeah.
Do you think not the I was going to say the Wizard Cup, but I don't think there should be a cup thing, but maybe do you think there should be a little series of 4 games before a season starts, or do you think 2 or 1's fine?
I think 1 or 2, what they're doing is not enough. I think you need 3.
I think it does bring the spectacle to the start of the season as well.
I think you need 3 for the competitive side of it, so then when they get into round 1, that they're not fatiguing in the last quarter as many players do at the moment. Yeah, I think especially when they have the intra-club games, I know that's a little bit of interest in them, but let's be honest, they're all playing against their teammates. They're not going to go in as hard as they do. They don't want to hurt. You don't want to get a serious injury.
Yeah, exactly. So I get why they're not going to push each other to the absolute limit in those pre-season games because you don't want to hurt your teammate.
Yeah.
But when they move, the intra-club games, when they move into the pre-season, it is a little bit different. I'm not going to exactly take the Richmond win by like the premiership favourites. Like we've seen a few people already getting on the bandwagon of it, and look, I mean, good on them, good on the team, like good on Richmond for winning, but
it meant nothing.
It meant very little. Let's just put it that way.
The only ones that really need to take effort from it is the people that want a round one debut, really. The ones that are going to try impressing in a way.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. We saw a couple of what was it? Caleb Windsor had a pretty good start to his draftee year. Got a big hit in the game as well. He did come back, I believe, but he had a pretty good pre-season game. Trent Rivers was playing in the midfield for a lot of it, and he played pretty well. Clayton Oliver did surprisingly return. I didn't see that coming, but I think I don't know how much he played in the first official part of the game, but he did play a little bit in the last 3 quarters.
Yeah, I think they said he played like one good period for it, like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, so... Yeah,
like he didn't play as much as... He didn't play a lot of the first 4 quarters. I think he did play like with the reserve players.
Yeah.
Because I did see a couple of highlights in that, but other than that, he didn't have a lot of game time. They are still saying that he could be in for the opening round against Sydney, but I think he's going to have to perform in the pre-season game that they have next week as well. Well, next game. It's not even next week, is it? I think they've got more pre-season games.
I think it is one next week. I think that...
There's
match simulations of this weekend, and then next week they play the pre-season games.
Yeah,
and then they take a week off, and then it's the opening round, and then they have... I don't even know. It's too hard to keep up with this.
I have got it on here, the match simulation game. So we've already had Melbourne v Richmond. We're recording this on a Tuesday, so when this comes out Thursday morning, there would have been another game. So North Melbourne v Collingwood is on Wednesday, which is tomorrow at 10 a.m. So I don't get why they're playing at 10 a.m. It's so shit.
I know,
I get why they're doing this is just match simulations. They're not exactly like pre-season games, even though they fucking are. But playing at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. I mean, couldn't they have moved that to 5 a.m? I mean, I don't mind a Wednesday, but make it at 5 p.m.
Yeah,
surely.
And get at least some because you did get some fans to the match sim of Richmond, Melbourne,
and they played on a Sunday as well, so it's very easy to watch.
And I just don't get it. It's like,
who the fuck's going to be able to watch that?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're just banking on Collingwood supporters who don't have a job. Oh, that's going to get me bloody annoyed. A band. Anyway, the Thursday, the Swans play the GWS Giants at 10 a.m. as well. I wanted to watch this game, but I can't. I think you said you could watch it. You're going to keep up to date with it to keep me informed of how the game was going. At 11:30 a.m., they've got Carlton versus Geelong. And then at 5 p.m. on Thursday, they've got Brisbane versus the Gold Coast Suns.
Which is probably the most normal time that they did for it.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of other teams that play at 5 o'clock. On Friday, we have at 11 a.m. The Western Bulldogs versus Hawthorn. At 2 p.m. on Friday, they have St Kilda v Essendon. And Port Adelaide versus Adelaide. Adelaide is at 5 p.m. on Friday. That is the game I am planning, trying to plan to stream. Depending on how long it goes for. I won't guarantee it just yet, guys, but that's the game I'm trying to think about. I don't know what other game I would have done, to be honest. It's probably the most interesting one out of any of them. But I didn't... I just wish that there were other games that I had a choice of, really. Anyway. And then on Saturday afternoon, which is the only game on Saturday, is West Coast versus Fremantle. So that's around 5 o'clock. Well, that's 5 o'clock in Western Australia. So what's that, like 3:30, 2:30 around most of the rest of the country? I think so. It's around that.
It's like 7 o'clock.
Oh, yeah, right. Other way
it's
around.
Like 7 o'clock.
Sorry, alright, other way around. Whatever. I don't live in WA. I don't know. And it's so weird. Why don't they do... I could say that, but whatever. And they're selling tickets to it, I think. I don't know if there's... how much they're selling.
They're selling tickets to these games?
Well, tickets required due to capacity of the West Coast Fremantle game. So... I think that's the one for them. I guess other games aren't, capped. I guess that maybe they're playing at a lower ground there.
Well, I know that, the showdown one is at Alberton, so that holds 7,000, 8,000, 10,000, something like that. I think.
Does it? I thought it wouldn't hold that many.
No, I wouldn't hold. I hold about at least 7,000 or 8,000.
Yeah, I guess that's fair enough. So look, obviously you don't take these games with much. I mean, obviously you look at the younger players, you look at some players coming back from injury maybe, but this isn't something.
And the position role that they're going to play.
Yeah, but you're not taking too much of this going into the regular season. I do think it's good to see though. I just wish there were better times. And then after this weekend's games, the next weekend we get to the official preseason games, and then we get to opening round. So we're only a few weeks away. It feels like it's gone really fast, this off season.
Especially the last... especially since the start of the year, really. It's been coming up real quick.
I don't know, maybe it's because we've been doing content for the game or whatever, but yeah, I think it's been really good. So moving on to some other news as well. Did you see the GWS CEO come out this week and talk about Collingwood?
I loved it. I thought it was so fun.
I think this was great to see. I saw a lot of Collingwood fans and getting shitty, and a couple of Swans fans getting shitty. It's like, why? Who cares if the Giants hate you? They should. Everyone does. For one, everyone hates Collingwood anyway.
Yeah, it's not big news, that one.
Yeah, the CEO came, if you didn't see it, which I don't know how you didn't, because it was posted everywhere acting like this is huge news, the team hates Collingwood. But the GWS CEO came out and said, we hate Collingwood almost as much as we hate the Swans. Now, to be honest, I know that Sydney are their crosstown rivals, but I think you should hate Collingwood more. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Well, if you ask most people, AFL fans, they'll say who's their most hated team. Most of them will say Collingwood.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that it would be a little bit different, like when it's their crosstown rivals. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought
the second most hated team will be Collingwood.
Yeah, I do think that I'm really liking the. Have you seen a lot of the media outlets? Well, not like the media personality, whoever runs the social medias for all these AFL clubs. Since the Giants kind of did it late last year, mid-year, all this they were just joking around, having fun, making all this content for it. All the other ones are starting to turn now.
Yeah, I've seen.
We've seen the Gold Coast.
Yeah,
we saw Damien Hardwick. They're lifting up the dumbbell, trying to make a joke, and then the Giants just responded and made a pretty funny joke responding.
Yeah.
I know the Sydney ones have been making some content in that. It does seem like maybe now the teams in that are kind of realizing that if you're going to be releasing sort of content for the game, that you kind of got to. Not take it too seriously. Yeah. I guess that's kind of a thing.
They're taking the social media outlet of these teams are just it's having a joke in a way that they're taking it less than...
Yeah, they're not making it it's got to act like they're some political leader or something.
Yeah.
They've got to take everything so seriously. Unless they're posting pre-season picks, then it's all serious.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be making the finals this year. Look how buff this player looks. Yeah. I think that's very funny. But yeah, I think that's really good to see. And I like the fact that a CEO, especially with a team like the Giants, who, are still, they're forming a team still. They're forming
themselves.
Making a fan base. They're standing up and saying, we don't like this club. And we see that they don't, based on how the games are played and how they talk.
Yeah.
But also, even though some people may not like Mason Cox, he's also brought a certain personality to the league, and especially on social media, talking about how the NRL are playing in Las Vegas in America, and Collingwood's first game against the Giants is in just a regular Sydney Oval where they have a what do they have?
It's was it a cattle yard? No. Farm or something.
Yeah, what do they have? The Sydney show.
Sydney show, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, the Sydney show. Yeah.
I think they still do it, but
yeah.
I did like that, and it made the Giants that they didn't really like it, but they led on with it, and then they used that as fuel for their content and for their social media. I just think it's really good to see, and it's it brings personality to them, and I think it's different for other clubs. They don't have to do it because they already have a solid fan base already. Yeah. When kids are growing up now, though, they're seeing content and that. And that's the good way to do it from the Giants' point of view, because they are such a young club. There's no point trying to broadcast towards older fans because they've already got their set team. But young kids growing up would see the funny side of things. They're all over TikTok, all over Instagram, all over social media. The first thing they would want to see, that's probably what attracts them to a club.
Yeah.
Looking on social media, not so much a different older stuff reading the newspaper, for example. That's the sort of thing that's just dying off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think I don't think it'll be too long, and we've already kind of seen it that AFL teams do have a YouTube channel, but I think they'll be doing a lot more with them and making a lot more content. I think that some teams have already posted a lot of stuff about their pre-season, like pre-season training, some have already posted their intra-club highlights.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like another thing that is just going to be growing a lot more. So moving on to the side of like, like media and that have talked about, I think the media deal or the pay deal for the players, one of the caveats of it was that players had to give more access to media, like media outlets and stuff. And then I think this is a better way to go about it. Personally, I think the players and the teams like making their own content online rather than having to listen to Damien Barrett's interview on Footy Classified and fucking that's the only way they get their they're like talking to media. I'd much rather them get interviewed by a random person at the club who talks to them, interviews them.
Who might have a bit of knowledge.
But even personality as well. Other than just getting asking like leading questions to try and get them into a trap and get them into a corner and then talk about that for 10 days.
And then have a big headline and it'll be there.
Yeah, exactly, and just absolute fucking joke. Now, speaking of, and I did love how this, this is Kane Corns on SCN, or whatever the fuck stupid radio station he's on now.
Yeah.
Your media outlets are dying at the radio, by the way. They're fucking dying, and you're going to be the only reason why I think Kane Corns has a major job at these sort of things now is because the one thing that he is good at is coming up with headlines to that aren't based on like players doing something wrong or trying to look for players to do something wrong. He makes the headlines, which then makes money for these companies. And look, I'm not the biggest hater of Kane Corns, but there are some things that he says and it's like, all right, bro, you're just looking for a click. All right, that's just absolutely bullshit. Like, for example, if you don't know, West Coast Eagles, when they had the intra-club game, I think it was last week, they all dressed up in funny clothes, similar to how like players in the NBA would dress up in clothes before their games or whatever.
Yeah.
And they all dressed up in like costumes. Some of them dressed up as I think one dressed up as Travis Kelce, the other one with Taylor Swift.
I love it.
I thought it was hilarious.
It was Ruben Jimby was one of them.
I think he was Taylor Swift, and I think Elijah Hewitt was Kelce. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I know it was Ruben Jimby. I know it was that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was the funniest part about the whole thing.
But all of them were just wearing like funny clothes before their intra-club game. And it was just a thing they posted on social media. And for some fucking reason, Kane Corns has such a big issue with it. Like, oh my god, they should be taking their pre-season seriously and not doing all this bullshit.
Well, what was it? It's not Mad Monday. It's the first day of pre-season or something like that.
It's like, yeah, I mean, I get it. This isn't Mad Monday, but you do realise that every single fucking media outlet was getting angry at the fact that Cal Mills got injured on Mad Monday.
Yeah.
So you're not happy with people having fun on Mad Monday, but you're also not fun with having fun at their pre-season training and pre-season intra-club games. So you're expecting that these players are supposed to be robots who do nothing for, 15 years of their career? So between the age of 18 when they get drafted to 33, 34, 35 when they retire, they're supposed to do fucking nothing for their life. They can't do anything to have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
I'm not saying snorting crack off a hooker's ass. I mean, just having a bit of fun, having some fun with your teammates. Because, what we see with Collingwood, for example, a lot of them look like they're mates with each other. And the only way to build team bonding is by doing these things as a club.
Yeah.
Like the example of West Coast, dressing up, showing off some personality, having a laugh. I'm sure they make some mates when they see all these sort of things. They plan with different teammates about different costumes.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
That's team building.
Yeah.
So Kane Corns is going to sit there and say, "Oh, it's not fucking Mad Monday. This is their pre-season, bro." They're not going out. Even if they did this before a game in round one, I would not give a fuck. As long as they weren't going out on the field and wearing their costumes, I don't care.
Yeah.
As long as they take the game seriously, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, the biggest issue at West Coast is not their costume changes. For fuck's sake.
And I'm sure in about 3 weeks into the season, they won't be talking about how in pre-season that they were wearing costumes. I'm pretty sure that's the one topic about West Coast they will not be talking about in round 3.
Yeah, exactly. If Collingwood were doing it, Would this be an issue?
Yeah, because they're the reigning premiers. They wouldn't give a shit.
I'm not talking about like favouritism towards Collingwood. I'm just saying because they are on top and West Coast are down at the bottom.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about here. And I think it's just ridiculous that now look, obviously he's trying to get a click and trying to get like a headline for SEN because they're, like I said, their media is dying in a fucking shambles. Like you just showed me recently today the 7 promo for the AFL season. Fuck, it sucked. All it was just a random song that was popular last year, by the way, not this year. Not even, like, it was pretty old, not pretty old, but it was like a year or so old. And they're playing this song, and all they did was show highlights in the background. The only thing that they had was Brian Taylor going, like, wowee or something. It just shows that they're not, like, there was no effort put in the trailer, and it was clearly shown. And I don't even know if the AFL make trailers anymore for their season. Because they haven't dropped one yet. I don't think they dropped one for the last few seasons. I looked on their YouTube. I couldn't find it. So, but that's not so much the media. That's not so much old media. That's just in general the AFL. I don't know about that. But yeah, I just think that the media of like Channel 7 and television and like free-to-air television in general, but even like radio, like the only time you listen to the radio now really is when, like for me, it's when I'm at work and it's the only thing on, or when I'm listening to the footy and in the car coming home to then watch it. I don't think anyone listens to the radio like just for fun. No. Or did you when they come home and listen to it? I don't think I've ever seen that.
Well, not these days. They have it. Everyone has the apps and music apps and stuff. And
but I could if like even the AFL teams now and their memberships are selling KO at a discounted price. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that. They've done that. Yeah, some teams have done that for the last like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, so I think that it's a good idea, but it just shows that the media of like old media of like radio and free-to-air TV is just absolutely fucking dying really quick. And I don't think it'll be too much longer before live sport, especially football, is taken off free-to-air altogether. I mean, we've already seen that there's been talks about like in a couple of years that Channel 7 would be getting even less games. I mean, they already don't get many to begin with. No. They basically get any public holiday game, all the finals obviously, and then they get Friday night, Thursday night, and Saturday night.
Yeah,
and then there's sometimes Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and the last couple of years they've lost those Sunday games.
And even then, the Sunday games used to be like the Sunday middle game used to be a pretty good game.
Yeah.
Now it's just a fucking shitstorm. Usually the good games on Twilight now.
Yeah, or they're just on the other prime time games.
Yeah.
Slots on Thursday, Friday or Saturday.
But it was, 5 years ago when Channel 7 would have a Friday game, a Saturday afternoon game, a Saturday night game, and then a Sunday afternoon game.
Yeah.
And obviously, I guess the Thursday game has taken the Saturday afternoon game away. But the Thursday games haven't, like, before this year, the Thursday games haven't been a mainstay. They have not been they stay there for a couple of rounds and they go away, and at the end of the season they come back to Thursday games.
Yeah.
But now they're most of the weeks where, like last season, it was like when there wasn't a Thursday game, it was Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday afternoon. And the only games that will be watchable were the Friday night games most of the time, not even all the time, and the Saturday night games.
Yeah.
Because all the mainstay games are going to Foxtel.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, KO and Foxtel, and streaming services.
And especially, like, even when the buy rounds come around, they're only getting 2 games, but there's only 7 games during those weeks, and they're just...
Like, and there's days when there's not even footy. Like, the Sunday, they're not even getting games.
Yeah, they're not getting the game. Yeah, so...
I mean, I think... Yeah, I seriously think in a couple of years, there won't be much free-to-air sport for footy, especially, but... we've seen with like T20 cricket, the BBL, that's a lot of it's on Foxtel now.
Besides the international test matches in cricket that are actually broadcast in their broadcast deal on free-to-air, every other international game's on KO and Foxtel.
Yeah. So sorry, we kind of went on a bit of a tangent. I wasn't really wanted to talk about that too much today, but I think it is a very interesting topic about the fact of like old media and stuff. You know, that's the main reason why the likes of Kane Corns bring up these sort of things to try and get clicks, whatever, and why he's one of the bigger talking points of AFL journalism now is because he's the one who will say something very outlandish and almost stupid in a way, so people clown on him.
Yeah. what was the comment about? You hear the one about Sydney Swans, but besides Callum Mills,
which we talked about last week
about Errol Gordon.
What did they say about Errol Gordon?
I didn't hear this one. He said that he's going to be the sole captain next year. So even though that Callum Mills is now the sole captain this year, as of next year, it'll be straight go to Errol Gordon.
No, that's not true at all. I'd be very fucking surprised. I mean, Errol Gordon, he's been there. He's 21 this year. I think that was his third year, so this is his fourth year.
Yeah,
Still
he'll be 22 by the end of the year.
Yeah, he is. Look, I don't know. I've not seen inside the four walls of Sydney, but when I see him on the field, he doesn't look like like much of a leader. Like he's still very much a follower, which is fine. Obviously, he's a young player, and I'm not saying that he won't be a captain of the future. But next year, no fucking way.
No.
They make Cal Mills the captain just because he's one of Sydney's best player. Well, he was Sydney's best player last year, really. It doesn't mean he's going to be the captain of the club.
No.
So I don't know where the fuck that's came from, but that's another thing that he's come out and said, which will capture a headline, which someone will take, and then either people will. He's someone to talk about.
Yeah.
Because so many people now in the AFL media are just fucking boring and no one gives a fuck about their opinion because they're all the same old shit. Oh, why don't the AFL players have any personality anymore? Well, maybe because every single time you fucking talk, you let them talk, you're just waiting for them to slip up so you can write a headline about it.
Exactly, yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to a player who actually has done something wrong and is facing backlash from the media, which is warranted, which is Tarryn Thomas. Yeah. Now, this guy has had more chances than fucking God knows who, but fucking he is now reportedly is going to be getting a 18-week suspension from the AFL. Now, I don't know if this is exactly official yet, but there's been a lot of reports about it being true.
Well, they're saying that because the investigation's still going on, it's pending, but the AFL have said, that it's 18 weeks.
For a suspension. So, look, if he gets 18 weeks, I'm assuming that means he's not allowed to come to the club, which means essentially that he's going to have to do a pre-season when he comes back, if that's 18 weeks away from North Melbourne, which basically means that his whole 2024 season, I think, is a write-off.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell he comes back. His contract ends at the end of the year, I believe.
He's on 700k.
Is he on 700k?
Yeah,
Bro, how is he on 700k?
Yeah, I just...
Fuck me. I mean, I get that the talent is there, but if you haven't played a game, you don't be getting that money.
What are you going to think? He's been... I don't know how long his contract was, like how many years it was, but if he missed... he came back in, round 12 last season, after his first offence, and he's missed...
that was more offences than that, but before that. But that's the one reason.
So, he's played, 10 games in the last... it's going to be up to 2 years.
Yeah.
That's a lot of wasted time of footy on a player that's promised so much.
Yeah. And he's getting paid a huge amount of money. Now, there was talks throughout the postseason that he was getting a potential move to the Gold Coast Suns. If I'm the Gold Coast, I'm not touching him now.
No.
But surely North Melbourne now as a club have to say, Tarryn, you're gone.
Yeah.
Even if they send him to their VFL club for a year, don't have him on the AFL list. See if he can show something, and then bring him back to the AFL system if he can prove it.
Yeah.
Take him away from the AFL club because he's always had that crutch there. If you're earning $700,000 a year, and you're still getting let in by the club, he's going to learn from his lessons. He's all good. He's not going to learn. Clearly, he's shown that now.
No.
So take him away from the club. Send him to the VFL team. You're not getting an AFL contract this year. If another AFL team picks him up, that's just tough. Tough on North Melbourne, whatever, and he has a good career. Someone else, maybe, who knows. But the way that they're risking so much money on Tarryn Thomas, surely they could say, you're gone. That he doesn't get picked. Let's say scenario. He gets picked. He gets told by North Melbourne, you're not allowed to come back this year. We are delisting you. Every single AFL club looks at him and says, look, we don't want to take the risk. North Melbourne give him a lifeline and say, look, you can play for the VFL team for a year. If you don't have any off-field shenanigans, any off-field issues, you can come back to the club. As long as you perform well in the VFL as well. That's, I think, a good case scenario for him. And it would show that he actually wants to care about playing AFL footy. Right now, he has not proven at all that he gives a fuck about North Melbourne.
No, not at all. And he's, when we first started, that he's had so many bloody chances.
exactly.
How many more does he need? And I think it'll be a strong statement. Do it now. Maybe wait till he gets the ban, 18 weeks, whatever it is. And so, we're done. We're done as a club. You're out the door.
Yeah.
His contract ends at the end of the year. What really is he going to be able to prove with not playing any footy for what? Pretty much 2 years of football. Pretty much 2 years.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
He barely played a game last year anyway.
And it's like, well, what's it going to prove from now?
Yeah. No, I think exactly. I think that he's done nothing to show any kind of trust and all. Like, I don't know why North Melbourne would trust him the way he's been. So now I think the only scenario he's got is kick him out. Like, look, if the charges are untrue, I think it's DV allegations, I believe, or charges. So look, I don't know too much about the charges. I'm not going to sit here and say if they're true or not because I don't know. If they are true, then fuck him to the moon. Fuck him. He's not. Fuck him. Get rid of him altogether. If they aren't true, then I still think they shouldn't have to. I still think they should get rid of him because I think that the stuff that he's been doing, they should just get rid of him for at least a year in the VFL. See what happens if he is improving, because there's been other shenanigans off the field that he's done. It's not just this charge once. He's been off the field for so long, for so many different issues, so many different off-field suspensions, that give him a year in the VFL. If another club doesn't want to pick him up, you give him the chance, see what happens, and then maybe you pick him up again.
Yeah.
To see what happens. I think it's very similar to Tyson Stengel at the start of his career. He had a few off-field issues. I think one at Richmond or something. Got sent to the Crows. The Crows gave him a couple of chances. He got told to go, which I think was good from the Crows.
Yeah.
And then he went to Geelong. After the Geelong, Eddie Betts went there and, took him under his wing, and he learned that he had to, shape up or he's not going to have a career in the footy. And he became an All-Australian player and won a premiership.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think that there is a scenario where he can come back to footy and actually have a career in it. But right now, I don't think he realises that he could get this taken all away from him.
No, he just... Because he's had so many chances that they seem like North Melbourne will give him another chance.
Yeah, well, he's probably sitting there thinking, "Oh, well, they're not going to get rid of me. I've got so much talent or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm such a talented player that why would they get rid of me? They're down the bottom of the ladder anyway." That's probably what he would be thinking.
Yeah,
but if you stand up for yourself, I'm going to be honest with you. He's not getting you to finals the next 2 years.
No.
Okay.
No.
So if I'm North Melbourne and they're not going to make 2 years anyway, so give him up. If he goes to another club, okay, they're going to be fine. He hasn't brought much to the club in the last 2 years anyway. He's been fucking off the field suspended. So who cares?
Exactly.
Let him go. Clear some salary cap space. Maybe you can finally get Josh Kelly. Fuck knows. Anyway, let's move on from that because I wanted to talk about this interesting graphic that SEN did drop, which is actually probably the first thing they've done that's actually quite interesting since... I can't remember the last time they've done something good. But anyway, have you ever seen a bracket or...
yeah. So
you know what a bracket is, obviously. But have you seen these cool little games that people have been playing lately? A lot of podcasts do it. So I thought we would do it, jump on the trend. Maybe you can chuck it into a TikTok, who cares? So SEN dropped an interesting bracket, which was the last, 15 years of Brownlow medalists. They're all matched up against each other. And basically what you're supposed to do is basically put these two as like a one-on-one battle.
Yeah. And
then whoever's the better Brownlow medalist or whatever, they go on to the next round.
Yeah. So
very similar to tennis or whatever, in the Australian Open. If two players play against each other, they battle, whoever wins goes to the next round. But obviously with this, it's who do you think was the better Brownlow medalist? Okay. So, interesting, they've got the last, basically between the years of 2009 and 2023, obviously. So, there was obviously the two being in 2012 with Trent Cotchin and Sam Mitchell, because they didn't include Joe Watson. Big fuck you to him. I don't know about that, but anyway. So, I thought we'd play this little game, see what happens, see what we believe. So, we'll start with the first bracket, which is between Gary Ablett in 2009 and Lachie Neale, the recent Brownlow medalist. Who do you think had the better Brownlow year?
Oh, Ablett.
I would say so, too. Because I think everyone, including me, was shocked when Lachie Neale won the medal.
He didn't deserve it.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I'll go out and say that, but I think it was a very big surprise, and I do think that Gary Ablett in 2009 had a massive year.
Yeah.
I think it's as good that actually it's the year that we're talking about, because if it was any longer, I don't remember a lot of them. So, well, not that I don't remember them, but it would be a lot harder for us to remember way back. But I do remember Ablett and that. I think. I don't think I've mentioned this on this podcast, but I do think that Ablett's probably the best player I've ever seen play. Yeah, probably the best player. Gary Ablett Jr. obviously.
Yeah.
Now obviously I'm 25, so there's no guarantee that I haven't seen the likes of like Tony Lockett or all these sort of other players, Paul Williams and Bob Skilton, obviously. But I'm just naming Swans players, but like back in the past. Anyway, let's move on. We go to Chris Judd versus Paddy Cripps. This was 2010, so this would have been when Chris Judd was playing for Carlton. I believe.
Yeah, I'd still say... I'd say Cripps.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the year that Chris Judd had, and I feel like that he had better years at West Coast than he played at... I know he had a good couple of years at Carlton before he eventually did retire, but I do remember that Cripps had a really good year in 2022, and it was one of the big reasons why they almost made the...
Well, it was one of his lawyers, wasn't it? Because they got him off of that tribunal hearing.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, you're the one who picked him to get the next round.
Yeah, I still believe he played a better year.
Yeah. All right. I'm happy to go with that. I'm happy to go with Paddy Cripps. Yeah, so we'll put Paddy Cripps there. Next one is in 2011 was Dane Swan up against Ollie Wines in 2021. I'm picking Dane Swan every day.
Yeah, I think Dane Swan anyway. But yeah.
I know that was a bit of a hard one for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Inaugural Port Adelaide Brownlow medalist.
Yeah. Inaugural? What do you mean?
Yeah,
Gavin Wanganeen didn't.
No,
Didn't
he
even
won
for
it
Port?
at Essendon.
I thought he won one at Port.
Nah.
Oh, okay.
He was the first ever Port Adelaide Brownlow medalist.
Oh. That's fucking shit for Port. How long does it take, Port? I thought for sure that... I think you're right, but I'm not...
I'm 100% right.
Alright, relax. Jesus Christ. Alright. Next one we have is Sam Mitchell in 2012 compared to Lachie Neale in 2020. I'm going to go
I think Lachie Neale.
That was a year that everyone thought he was going to win.
Lachie Neale won it easily that year.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he won that one so easily, and just technically Sam Mitchell didn't win it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I'm happy with Lachie Neale there. Next up is Trent Cotchin in 2012 versus Nat Fyfe in 2019.
Nat Fyfe.
Yeah, I'd go Nat Fyfe as well.
Because for the same reason that he didn't technically win a Cotchin.
Yeah, but Nat Fyfe had a good year that year.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Yeah, so I'm going to happily go with Nat Fyfe. After that, we get to Gary Ablett in 2013. This is at the Gold Coast Suns versus Tom Mitchell in 2018. Ablett every day.
No.
You would go Tom Mitchell.
I still believe it's Tom Mitchell. Only because when he was at the Gold Coast, Gary Ablett, yes, you're getting every possession, but he wasn't doing... I still remember this. Like the stat was that he was getting not most of the disposals in the back half. He wasn't actually helping the team in a way, and it doesn't. It was totally off possessions that he'd have 55 disposals in a game, and on the regular have 40 plus.
So you don't think that's good enough?
I don't think it's most valuable. I think Tom Mitchell that year he was better. I might get hate for it, but it's true. But that's my opinion.
I'll rock paper scissors you for that one because I would pick Gary Ablett every day of the week. 2013 Ablett over 2018 Mitchell. Okay, you win. You get Mitchell. Go through. If I win, Ablett goes through. All right. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, fine. Tom Mitchell can go through. This is rigged anyway. All right. After that, we get to Matt Priddis in 2014 versus Dustin Martin in 2017. Yeah. It's unlucky, but Martin has to go through.
Yeah, it does. And, well, to be honest, I still remember that year that Matt Priddis won. No one expected him to.
Yeah.
And I think he was the first person ever to not be picked in the All-Australian.
Yeah, he was the first.
As a Brownlow medalist. He was the first person ever to do it.
Yeah, Lachie Neale was after that.
Lachie Neale
last year was the one to do it again. So, yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think it was... I can't remember the year that Matt Priddis had, but I do remember... obviously he won the Brownlow, but I do remember that everyone was shocked by it. Yeah. And then the last bracket of the first round is Nat Fyfe in 2015 versus Dangerfield in 2016. I'd go Dangerfield.
Yeah, I think so.
That was his first year for the Geelong and he had a massive year. I remember that. So, yeah, I'd go him. Alrighty, so we're into the second round now. We've got Ablett in 2009 versus Paddy Cripps in 2022.
Ablett.
Yeah, I'd go Ablett as well. I think it's fair enough. After that, we get... I'm not even going to argue. That's fair enough. After that, we get to Dane Swan in 2011 versus Lachie Neale in 2020. I still remember the year that Dane Swan had.
Yeah,
I would put him through.
Still good, yeah.
Yeah, I'd still put Dane Swan through, to be honest. After that, we get to Nat Fyfe in 2019 versus Tom Mitchell in 2018.
Probably 5.
Yeah, I'd probably put 5 too. We're finally agreeing on something. And then the last one is... This is a tough one. This could honestly go up for the final, but I'm Dustin Martin in 2017 versus Dangerfield in 2016. I'd go Dusty.
I think Dustin Martin that year was bloody good that year.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very hard one, but at the end of the day, I think Dustin Martin had a massive year then and deserved it. And then to the final, to the prelim final, what do they call it in soccer? They don't call it quarterfinals. I don't know.
The semi-final.
Do they call it the semis?
Yeah, they only go semi.
Okay. Anyway, Ablett in 2009 versus Dane Swan in 2011.
I think it was Ablett.
Ooh. I'll agree with you, but Dane Swan had a massive year in 2011.
It was hard to really split that, but I think it was Ablett.
Yeah, alright. And then Martin up against Fyfe.
Martin.
Yeah, I agree with you. Dusty Martin in the final. Alright. So, in the grand final of our Brownlow medal bracket, we have Gary Ablett in 2009 versus Dustin Martin in 2017. I think Dustin Martin.
I thought Ablett. I think Ablett's was good because...
I think that Dustin Martin had a... I think that that was one of the best years I've ever seen from a player, personally. Now, obviously, you can match up. Both of them won premierships in that year. Geelong had a pretty good year. I think they finished third in their year in 2009. I know Richmond finished third. It's not so much finals because obviously Brownlow. I just think that Dustin Martin had a better year. But
well, he won every award that
he
besides the Coleman.
Yeah, exactly. He won the coaches' votes. I can't remember if Gary Ablett won the coaches' votes that year. I do remember that he had a massive year, though. He had a very good year for Geelong. But I think that the one thing I will say is I think that Geelong had a better year as... I know this sounds weird, but I think that Geelong had a better year as a full team than Richmond did. I know that sounds fucking weird because they both won premierships that year. But I think Dustin Martin stood above every other Richmond player compared to Gary Ablett, where I think that he was the best player, but I do think he had a lot of people who were very close to him, like Jimmy Bartell, Joel Corey, Kelly. Oh my God, how am I forgetting these names? There were a lot of them. The midfield, I'm saying. I think that Dustin Martin was there. Trent Cotchin was pretty close to him, but after that, I think there was a little bit lower. I think that Dustin Martin almost carried them. That's why I would say that Dustin Martin.
Yeah.
Change your mind?
Yeah, you might be right. Yeah.
Alright. So our Brownlow bracket, I win because I convinced you. Yeah. I should be a politician. I should be a lawyer, sorry, because I'm that good at convincing. So for our Brownlow bracket, guys, for the past 15 years, our best... the best Brownlow medalist in the past 15 years has gone to Dustin Martin. Congratulations. Almost as good as winning the Boundary Riders medal on the channel. Congratulations, Dusty. I'm sure you can go show someone who would care about that. Anyway, that's pretty much all the footy stuff we have for this week, guys. Just before we move on into the World Sports segment, as always, we try to mention at the start of the episode, but I think now that we have the BR Designs to take a look at, I'm not going to be promoting this too much until the middle of the episode. But, of course, we do have a Patreon if you guys want to join it. You get a bunch of exclusive perks, which include early access to this podcast, early access to Boundary Riders videos. You also get to access the live stream for our Twinners podcast, which actually will be recorded, going live today when we're recording it. So, you would be getting early access to that podcast as well. We also have a bunch of exclusive perks in terms of BR Designs. So, if you join our Patreon, you will get a bunch of exclusive perks with BR Designs exclusively, which include feedback on designs that we have, help on upcoming designs. So if you guys want different sort of designs, you have different ideas, you can let us know and we'll be able to, discuss them on there. We also have a discount code exclusively for Patreon members, which will be an extra 15% off for every single person who's on Patreon, and that will never change. But yeah, that's basically all the stuff. If you want to join, link is down below. If you want to check out the BR Designs shop, link is down below as well. Let's move into world sport. Now, of course, the NFL has finished, so we don't have much to talk about there. Cricket is... Was there been much cricket?
Not much.
I think the T20s kind of finished off, didn't they?
Yeah, and then the T20... the tour of New Zealand starts next week. So
okay, so
this week, the T20s...
so the T20's gone first,
and then
against
the
New Zealand.
Test series starts next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think, are we even playing like the top team, or are we just playing like a top team for the test, or are we going over there pretty easy?
Tour of New Zealand.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, are we like playing our best team?
Yeah. We're playing a test team, yes, and sort of our T20 team because it's our last test series, T20 series before the World Cup in June.
Where is it being played again?
USA and West Indies.
Yeah, that's interesting. We'll see how that pans out. I don't know about that, but I still don't think T20 cricket's really going to be that popular in America. I still think that footy should be pushed over there a lot more. But anyway, that's a story for another day. Let's move into soccer because we have a lot to talk about today. First thing I wanted to take a look at was an interesting concept that is happening in the World Cup tournament coming up. It's not the World Cup regular stuff. It's not the Euros, anything like that. It's an interesting World Cup, which I actually saw from a YouTuber talking about it. He's called DMAC over on YouTube. But he's talking about a new World Cup taking place in 2024, which is basically the plus over 35 retired players World Cup. So it's only 8 countries, and all like international players who are like almost pretty much legends of the game, who are like over the age of 35. So the likes of like Ronaldinho playing, Lampard, a bunch of Argentinian ones that I can't remember.
Thierry Henry, isn't he?
Thierry Henry, I think, was like 1 year for France.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of like older guys who are coming together and they're playing a World Cup style tournament, but for older players. And I think that's just really cool.
Yeah.
I think that that's a really cool concept. We've obviously seen these sort of innovations are coming out. This isn't so much soccer, but obviously you've seen the stuff about the enhanced games where basically everyone's on steroids or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's really funny. I think that's a cool idea. Like, obviously these are just rich people paying for these people. If you want to do drugs and like, if you want to use performance enhancing drugs, you can, but it's on an equal playing field.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually okay. Like, I think that's... Some people get to the idea of like, performance enhancing drugs aren't the worst thing. Like, they're not going to improve so much that you're that much impressive, like, especially in team sports. But I think if it's on an equal playing field, if everyone's like, okay, you're going to use it, that's fine. Go ahead. I don't like it when it's like footy, for example, and someone's taking a performance enhancing drug because you're not supposed to. It's against the rules. So that means not everyone is using it. So it's fair enough that they get outlawed for it. They get banned for it. But I think that the enhanced games is like a really good idea because it's it's not good. It's not a massively good idea, but I think it's fun, and if people want to do it. I think it was James Magnussen is doing it for swimming, and he's like, I'm going to juice to the gills and beat the world record. It's like, let's be honest, bro, if you beat the world record while fucking on steroids or whatever, you get the enhanced record, but you don't get the actual record.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. But yeah, I think this is a really good concept of a World Cup sport, of a World Cup soccer, because, obviously this isn't going to be the most skilled. Because, the players who are like, they're 25, 26 or whatever, they're going to be a lot better than players who are like 35, 36, above 40.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really cool concept of like, people of the past coming back to play for their country. And, potentially win a World Cup for their team, for their country as well. I'm unsure as to who other players are going to be playing in this as well. I'm just going to have a quick look around. So the rules will be that they are 11 aside. There will be 2 halves that will be 35 minutes long instead of 45, and there'll be roll-on subs. So basically like in AFL, like we roll on so subs can just rotate as they can, which I think is a good idea. Just trying to look for the players that are going to be involved as well. So Players, so the rule is they must be over 35. Maybe I'll just play this.
35 have been capped by their country or made 100 top flight appearances. The captains are Steve McManaman, Christian Corumbu, Kevin Coragni, Marco Materazzi, Miguel Salgado, Esteban Cambiaso, Emerson, and Diego Lugano. The provisional squads indicate that 5 previous Ballon d'Or winners will feature, but there's so many other legends set to play. The likes of Lampard, Ferdinand, Cafu, Roberto Carlos, Henri, Ozil, Totti, David Villa, Puyol, Forlan, and so many more. The best part is scheduled right after the Champions League final and right before the Euros. This could be huge, but will you be watching? Let me know. There's a new world.
Now, I really hope they actually do broadcast this somewhere where we can watch it, because Australia aren't involved in it, obviously. But I do hope they do show it somewhere where I can watch it, because I think this would actually be really cool to see. Like every single player that he mentioned there, I know.
Yeah.
I at least have some sort of idea of who they are. And for someone who's on a huge especially like 10, 15 years ago, I didn't watch much soccer at all.
Yeah.
If at all. So, even I know a lot of those players. So for someone who would love soccer, anyone who's above the age of 30 be like, oh, this is fucking sick.
Yeah.
And I would really love to see this as like an AFL format, to be honest. I'd love to see a bunch of older AFL players coming back to play like a pseudo season with like all these different teams coming in that are above like 35 and just retired. That'd be kind of cool, but it'd obviously be a lot different. I love this for a soccer format though.
Yeah, I think it's just like the 35-year-old people that used to watch this when they were their age, watching them in their prime, get to see them again, and yeah.
And I think it can open up to maybe in a few, 10 years time or something, that a lot more countries can join in.
Yeah,
and then, the likes of for Australia. Obviously, I'm just naming players that I remember. I'm not saying they would do it, but Harry Kewell, Tim Cahill.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of players who, may not be the best, but could do it. And at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to be taking it as seriously. Like it's not going to be the fucking most serious games out there, but I think they'll definitely, if it gets down to it, I'm sure they'll try and win the game for their country.
Yeah.
So moving on, at the start of the episode, I did mention about its bombshell transfer news, and that is basically that now the ordeal between Kylian Mbappe and PSG for a couple of years now, he's been wanting to leave, but they've been kind of locking him away, saying you cannot leave. It looks like finally that he's going to get his wish and be able to get to Real Madrid. So he, as a child, I think, in his coming years, he was a massive Real Madrid fan. He's always wanted to play for Real Madrid. I think, to be honest, he probably should have got there by now, but he hasn't been able to. But at this point, I think he's coming out of contract at PSG.
Yeah.
So at this point, he is going to be almost a certainty now. It's 99% confirmed that he's going to be at Real Madrid in the next season. So they're going to be very hard to beat Real Madrid when they get Kylian Mbappe.
Yeah,
they're already a massive. They're already leading La Liga by 8 points now. Actually, no, it's not 8 points. It's 6 points at least. I think they're up by at least a game and a half, maybe 2. I did see as well that they did draw their game, so Girona is still a chance.
No, they lost their game on the weekend, Girona.
Yeah, but there's still a chance. If Real Madrid keep on losing, there's a chance. Or not winning. But anyway, I do think Girona are gone. But I do think, this team is already very good. But the one thing that Real Madrid do kind of lack is a, number 9. Kylian Mbappe isn't, that traditional striker. But I do think that he would obviously add so much to their attacking line.
Yeah.
Obviously. But, they got Vinicius Jr., they got Rodrigo on the right.
And they got Jude Bellingham.
Yeah, they've got Jude Bellingham running through the midfield, who's playing like a number 10, number 9, a wanderer sort of role, which is really good. But at the moment, their number 1 striker, I believe, is Joselu, who's a former... I think he played for Valencia, but they needed a striker after Benzema left to go get the money. Good on you, bro. He wanted to come back basically 6 months later and wasn't allowed to. Kind of like what Jordan Henderson did, but basically... I think he was obviously getting offered a lot more money, Benzema, so he's like, fine. And he lays back in his fucking $1 trillion mansion. Oh, God, fuck. But yeah, I did see, I think that would make a massive front three, and I could not see them not winning like a treble or a quad. When in Spain next year, basically on the fact that Barcelona have kind of dropped off in the past few years. Atletico, I still don't think can compete too much, especially if they do bring in Mbappe. And Girona, I'm not seeing as like a backing it up again.
And the other teams around them as well. But
like Sociedad and that. But even on the world stage, there's going to be so little teams that can compete with that front line, and the rest of their team is good as well.
Yeah,
and they will get Courtois back next year, who's been injured for the entire season. So I think that's going to be very interesting if and when that transfer does go through. I'll say that. Let's move into the Premier League. So this morning that was played, Everton drew 1-1 with Crystal Palace. Everton got very lucky.
Yeah, they did.
They got very lucky. Crystal Palace, not that the game was exactly like a very good game, I'll give it that, but Crystal Palace took the lead in the 60th minute, I believe, and then Everton came back to draw it late. I think it was the 60th minute. I'll quickly have a look. It was in the 66th. Pretty close. Jordan Ayew got a penalty, I believe. And then Onana scored a goal for Everton in the 84th minute. So moving to the results of the Premier League from this week, I guess. By the way, tomorrow, which you guys would already know, is Manchester City versus Brentford. Sorry, Liverpool fans and all that, but I don't think they can do a Chelsea for you and get a draw out of that. You should be thanking me. I went to the cafe and whatever, and there was a Liverpool fan there, and he works there or whatever. We talked a bit at the time, and he's like, "Thank you for getting a draw for us." So that was good. Looking at other results, Luton Town almost got a draw out of the Manchester United game, but Rasmus Højlund has actually come into some good form.
Ever since he scored the first goal, he scored, I think, last six matches.
Yeah, he's done really well. So they got a 2-1 win away from home. That was a good game, though. Luton played really well. We did say as well, if they can bank a couple of points in the next couple of games, because it's really hard matchups, they could be able to, break away from that relegation battle. But they just couldn't secure a point there. Brighton thrashed Sheffield United 5-0. And for the player who said that was not a red card, you are blind, bro.
It was the captain.
All right, bro. But that is... you could just say, look, I didn't really see it.
Yeah, it would have just... that's the one time you say that. You say that. That's the one time you say that. That was the most brutal tackle I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. He had his leg out. He almost took out Matoma's... if you haven't seen it, look up the highlights of the Brighton-Sheffield United game. Just look it up on Optus Sport. But that was so brutal. On first glance, you kind of don't really see his right leg going in, so you're kind of mistaken it, and the referee didn't really notice it as well. He just paid a foul. But when you see it on replay, he was that close from hitting Matoma's knee. If he hit his knee, that was not... He was
career-ending.
Yeah.
It was so bad.
He was lucky that he... I think it was very lucky that I think he only got suspended for 3 games. I think it was the minimum red card, straight red card. So... Yeah. He was kind of lucky, but at the end of the day, that could have been disastrous for Matoma. Especially for a player who's like an agile player as well. That could have done a lot of damage for his career. So he's very lucky that he didn't collect him in that right knee.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving into other results, Chelsea drew 1-1 with Manchester City. City had a lot of chances, though. They were very lucky. They were very lucky, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Tottenham lost 2-1 to Wolves. Tottenham have kind of fallen off now, really, since that dream start to their season. Nottingham won 2-0 against West Ham to try and bridge the gap on the relegation zone. Newcastle drew 2-2 to Bournemouth. Fulham lost 2-1 to Aston Villa. Arsenal thrashed Burnley 5-0 away from home. And Liverpool won 4-1 over Brentford. So looking at the Premier League table right now, Liverpool have a 2-point lead on Arsenal, both playing the same amount of games. With those dropped points from Manchester City against Chelsea, they are 4 points away from the top, but have a game in hand. So I think that game is the Brentford game. I think that's trying to make up. So depending on how that result goes, I would be very surprised if they don't win. They'll be 1 point away from top. Aston Villa are in 4th spot with 49 points, 8 points away from top. I think they're kind of looking just for the Champions League spot right now, so they're in the Champions League at the moment. Tottenham are in 5th with 47 points. Right on their hammer is Manchester United, who are in some really good form since basically they returned from Christmas, I believe, that Christmas break.
Yeah.
They're currently on a 5-game win streak, so they're doing really well. Then you've got Brighton in 7th, Newcastle 8th, West Ham 9th, and Chelsea are in 10th. Looking at the relegation battle, Everton, with that draw, have got themselves out of the relegation zone on goal difference. So looking at it, Crystal Palace are in 15th. Brentford are in 14th on 25 points, along with Crystal Palace in 15th. Nottingham Forest in 16th are on 24 points. Everton are on 20. who are just in front on goal difference on Luton Town, also 20, and then Burnley and Sheffield United are both on 13, basically guaranteed to be going down.
It's pretty much the last. Yeah, it's whoever. It's 18 and.
Yeah, 18 and up really now.
Yeah.
I think it is. I think you kind of could be on the money with the Crystal Palace call. If you haven't been listening the last few weeks, you've been making very clear that Crystal Palace are one of the teams outside the relegation zone at the moment who are in the most danger.
Yeah.
And they could have picked up 4 points on Everton and probably should have to an extent. They shouldn't have really conceded that goal against Onana. I think it was a better team.
Yeah.
But drawing that game, they're still 5 points out of the relegation zone, so they're not in massive danger yet. But right now, obviously, if Everton had their 10 points, they would be in 16th and very, very close.
Yeah.
I still think Nottingham Forest are in quite a lot of danger. They have won 2 of their past 3 games. They go up against Aston Villa away, so that's going to be a massive game then. Everton have Brighton next away, and they haven't been able to win a game in the last 5. They've been able to get 3 draws but not win, so that's quite concerning. Luton Town have Liverpool next, which I think we mentioned, but after that I think they have a good sort of run. Yeah, after Aston Villa, they do have on March the 3rd, which is basically 2 weeks time. They have Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest. So that's where they kind of need to bank the points there.
Yeah.
So we'll be watching it, keeping a close eye on that relegation battle. It's almost as intense as the title race right now. We haven't seen a title race this close in quite a long time. Especially a three-way tie.
Yeah, three-way tie, yeah.
Anyone could win it at the moment. City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. I mean, if City win tomorrow, it's 2 points between top.
Yeah.
In 3 teams. So I think the Premier League's really running forward. We're going to be keeping a close eye on it until the season ends. So when the AFL season does start, we're still going to be doing our World Sports segment. At this rate, it'll probably going to be soccer. We'll probably add a little bit of other sports in there if there's something we want to talk about, like a different sport like cricket or maybe an NFL trade move or something like that, or some big off-season news. We'll talk about that, but main point of the World Sports segment will be a lot about soccer. So, and I think the Matildas actually play a game sometime.
They play their Olympic qualifier this weekend.
Yeah, I think, so that's coming up soon, and Sam Kerr will be out of it. I don't know if she's going to be ready for the Olympics, if they do qualify.
Yeah,
so we'll have to wait. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that front. But guys, that is basically all we have for today's episode of the Boundary Riders podcast. Thank you for listening or watching. If you've been watching on YouTube, make sure to leave a like, subscribe on YouTube. We've got a couple of videos coming out, like main channel videos that aren't exactly just clips from the podcast. So make sure to keep an eye on them. If you have been listening on Spotify, make sure to leave us 5 stars. It really does help out the channel and help it grow with the podcast. So if you did enjoy it, leave it 5 stars. Make sure to leave a follow as well to be notified on every single podcast dropping. BR Designs, if you want some footy prints, we're really looking forward to some more designs coming up. I've been planning some more designs to come up. So if you want to be first to know about that, join up Patreon. If you are enjoying everything else, make sure to let us know down below. That is all from us. So we'll catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.